This is 757 Saturday Sports Talk with Matt Hatfield and Coach Ed Young on ESPN Radio 94.1.
757 Saturday Sports Talk is not brought to you by Michael McDonald. We do have the lookalike, the other side of the glass, Dino Franza. I am Matt Hatfield, the Coach Ed Young with me as well. It is brought to you by Larry King Law. If you're injured in an accident, you call 757-595-8100 for Larry King. We got buy or sell coming up in a moment. But, good friend of ours, Bruce Pearl, Virginia Trophy, one of the best. And you know about his Virginia Beach Mustangs championship Pop Warner football squad. Texting in the show, wanting to know how Mark Williams is doing. Of course, he was a recipient of our Virginia Preps Classic MVP just a couple years ago, Ed. He's now at Duke, the 7-footer who played in Florida his senior year, IMG. 2.3 points per game, 2.8 rebounds per game. He's getting just 7.5 minutes. I think the reason he's getting playing very sparingly right now is all these freshmen, even some of your higher-ranked ones. But, I mean, we're seeing a few out there get major minutes. But I think just the transition with this pandemic, not getting in there, the normal preparation has probably curtailed some of that in terms of the rotation and the minutes, would you not say?
Definitely have a feeling that is the case. Plus, Mike Krzyzewski made some news this week, too.
Yeah, he did. He thinks we should, pause. And listen, I don't think he's entirely wrong about that, but he said twice this week, he said, we'll play whoever. Then they cancel games against Elon and Gardner-Webb. First of all, nobody cares about Duke against Elon and Gardner-Webb. That's a
Georgia Southern, 3 games.
Georgia Southern, okay. I forgot the other one. Thank you.
All 3 would have been double-digit wins for Duke.
And the other thing is, by the way, he did this after his former assistant, Jeff Capel of Pittsburgh, came out and said this. And we got a guy from the 757 on Capel staff at Pitt, and Milan Brown, who's been on the program before, Kick-A-10 high grad. And they're not doing too hot, though they did get a win in the ACC Big Ten Challenge at Pitt. Duke did not. They've lost back-to-back non-conference home games for the first time since 82-83. And I think if you had said this game 1, this would be received better. Why are you waiting now to say it after you take it on the chin against the Hoosiers and the Spartans? Say it game 1. You had every opportunity to say it game 1. Why are you waiting now to say it?
That's a definite excuse me.
And again, I'm not saying he's wrong.
A lot of people jumping on him, including Nate Oates, head coach at Alabama, all over him about, if you wouldn't have lost to Michigan State and who's the other loss to? It just happened.
Hoosiers.
Illinois. They lost to Illinois.
Yeah, Indiana. Excuse me. It was Illinois. You're right.
And by the way, Illinois, they're one of my picks for Final Four. They're very, very good.
You're right, Dino. Thank you. It was Illinois.
Now, he lost to 2 power teams. Now, if he would have lost to an Elon, Georgia Southern, Gardner-Webb, and said it, he would take more heat. Like Pitino, a head coach at Marist, came out and said that
Pitino, you're talking about
Iona. He came out beginning of the year saying that we should be moving games back till starting in February, March.
I think he's right.
Okay, so he said it early, which is they may have to do it anyways because I made a comment. I don't think you're going to see a regular NCAA tournament this year. I just don't think you're going to see it.
Well, I think they're going to get it in because of the millions and billions of dollars that are at stake here.
I don't think you're going to see 64 teams.
I don't see how you're going to get all the amount of money to execute it. I think they're going to have to push it back. I think if you played in April or May, you played in April or May. Right. Again, it's like the VHSL, not to go off tangent here. Why in the world are we stuck to this calendar? This isn't spring sport, the end of a school year, calendar year, and we're transitioning next year. We have time. It's stubbornness. It's laziness. Period. End of story.
Don't break the desk now. That's cost you money. You don't make enough money to fix his desk.
Let's hear from somebody who's not lazy or stubborn. But, man, I tell you what, I wouldn't want to meet him at Dark Lake because he might knock you out. He's a great football player. He was on Packer and Durham this week, our buddy from Bethel High School, who we're going to try to get on before the NFL draft, Jeremiah Owusu Koromoa. And with Wes Durham and Mark Packer on the ACC Network, it got brought up about the 757 area code.
Jeremiah, we've had Javon on. Drew was with us last week from the defensive side. You guys have such a national roster, but yet you're from one of the proudest football areas in the country. There are not many places on the earth as proud of its football as the 757 is. So do you fly the flag pretty strong in South Bend for your hometown?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to. I think any of the guys coming from a hometown like the 757, like Hampton, Virginia, and Erica, like where I'm coming from, will hold that proud. will hold that to their chest. Virginia itself is a competitive state, and coming from that place, you want to uphold the tradition of some of the guys that came before you. Coach Lee always tells us as a defense is to leave a place better than you found it. And, that's exactly what I want to do each and every place that I go. So I think that's something that I will hold, near and dear to my heart.
So there you heard it about the 757 area code. He's going to be one of the latest from here, Ed, I think that's destined for stardom on the big stage, talking about transitioning from Friday Night Lights at Darling Stadium for the Bethel Bruins and those rivalry games against Phoebus and Hampton, some of which were played on Thursdays and Saturdays too, and also dazzled on the hardwood to Saturdays at Notre Dame, all that atmosphere, which has not been the same this year without the fans and the pandemic, to Sunday NFL action. We shall see where he goes, but I think he's likely a first-round pick. Be shocked otherwise.
I definitely think so, and I think he can be a factor in the NFL too, not just on the roster.
And before we get to a caller here, I see Richard in Williamsburg right there. And by the way, we'll push buy or sell to the next segment, since I see we're up against the clock here, and we'll also do some Bronco Mendenhall sound of UVA. Mark Packer likes to ask the athletes that come on their toughest class. And I know you love asking about the grades, was lunch your favorite, like you always say, is lunch your favorite subject? You always say that with me.
Because it was the only class you got an A in.
I got an A+, excuse me. I got A+, not A. Here's what Jeremiah said about that with Packer and Durham.
That's a tough question. Probably is this anthropology class.
Why?
I think we had like 11-page papers, like at least 3 of them. And, our rubrics were really detailed. So you couldn't really, just write it. You had to do a lot of research on it.
So you
I
think
would say this anthropology class?
What will be harder, that class or studying for the next 2 weeks, getting ready for Trevor Lawrence and the boys for round 2? What will be harder?
Man, I don't even know. This next game feel like it's life or death. I would definitely say this next game for sure, because I think it's a lot on the line for me, my coaches, my teammates, and obviously this program. So, like you guys said, man, being from the 757, being from Virginia, it's always a compete mindset. You want to respect all your opponents. Yeah. And I think this game is something that I will hold, something that would be a great milestone in our lives.
There you go. Life or death, Notre Dame Clemson, or anthropology class?
It's not life or death. Come on now. The loser's not going to be dead.
To Notre Dame and Clemson football fans, it sure is. Now, I agree with you, but that to them, this is like Alabama, Auburn. This is
but see, there's a difference. Had he went to Clemson, he wouldn't have to worry about those anthropology papers because they have somebody do it for you.
Oh, why are you taking digs at Clemson? We'll never get Sheridan Jones or
Clemson.
Jordan Williams on the show.
I'm just giving you a fact. I'm not. It's just the way it is now. It's the new normal.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, and if you want me to expound on that, Alabama does the same thing. All right, Notre Dame, they don't write the papers for you. They don't have the kids on the who get extra credit, or their work study job is to write papers. If for anybody who thinks that doesn't happen, keep living in the bubble.
Well, listen. I know you're right about that. I just, Let's take a caller and talk to Richard in Williamsburg. Help me from Ed Young's Craziness. Richard, how you doing?
I'm doing great, guys. Richard Onesty. I'm athletic director at Bruton High School.
Hey, thanks for calling in,
Rich.
Richard.
I thought that voice sounded a little familiar. We've talked.
Yeah. A couple personal things real quick.
Sure.
Coach Young, I know that our scheduling didn't pan out, but I'm looking forward to keeping that association alive. And also your personal graciousness with the loss of my mom. It was a very important thing for me to hear from you, and thank you.
Well, like I said, Rich, you touched a hard nerve, and about another week and a half, I'm going to deal with the anniversary of my mom's passing, and it just seems like it was the other day, and it's not easy, but we got to get through it because it's the way it is. But I appreciate you guys scheduling us, and maybe if we ever get back to normal next year, we can still do it.
Absolutely. Just from an athletic director perspective and a personal perspective, my personal comfort level with all that's going on is kind of low. But my professional perspective as an athletic director is that, we've got to do what we have to do. And in our county, we have mechanisms and mitigation strategies that I think are sound and doing things the right way. But the overall comfort level of everybody concerned, the coaches, the athletes, the families, the administration, is really not in a great place for us to really be beginning, kind of full bore. I know the Virginia High School League has put things in place to allow us, but I think that was more of almost a political statement than anything else. And they've put all the brunt of everything that we do now back on the schools, back on the administration and the ADs, and it's been tough sledding. But we are a resilient bunch, and we're going to do what we can to do for the kids. But just that personal perspective, my comfort level is lower than what it is professionally, and that's the perspective that I think a lot of ADs and a lot of coaches have out there.
Richard, we thank you for calling in. I got one quick question I'm sure Ed made before we let you run, and we respect all the hard work and dedication you and so many of the administrators and coaches out there, even people tied with the Virginia High School League, have done during this time, because we know it's not easy. There is no easy solution or way out of this. But in speaking with numerous coaches this week, many who have come to me with questions and seeking answers and so forth, I'm curious to get your thought on that, to follow up. One of the things that I even posed on a little bit of a Twitter thread the other day was, if it's about health and safety, which I think we all would agree that needs to be the main priority, and we push things back to start, what would be the harm? And I know some of the smaller schools, which is the case even for you all at Bruton, to try to do this where you have the seasons almost, I wouldn't say mixing, but they might overlap by a couple of weeks. If the outdoor activities such as fall sports and football could go first and they were to push winter back, what would it take for that to happen with the Virginia High School League, or do you think that's not even an option that could be motioned in by the executive committee?
I honestly don't see it as an option, because our multi-sport athletes, which at smaller schools are so vital to the success of programs or even the existence of programs, I think that would be a hard call to make, because then you're going to stretch an athlete and make them make tough decisions. Which sport do I play? What am I better at? What can I help my team do? And I think that becomes a real hard sell from the standpoint of trying to blend the seasons instead of having them condensed the way they are now. It would be tough. It would be even more of a challenge than what they're facing now.
Tough, but could it be achieved? I mean, it's a choice where right now a lot of people feel like there's no choices, though.
Exactly. And giving a choice is definitely better than no choice. You're absolutely correct.
Ed?
Oh, Rich, two things on that. First of all, to piggyback on that, I would look at the moving the seasons back where they don't necessarily overlap unless you get into the championships, which they overlap already anyways.
Right.
So sure. that I can understand. I do think there's room to play. Now, I haven't come out real hard about a lot of this because I don't want to get taken as, he's one of these coaches, all he cares about is playing and trying to win. He's not care about a kid's safety and health, which is completely false with me. But I'm looking at wearing masks for sports, but not gymnastics, let's say. And I need somebody to tell me, okay, why would it be bad for a gymnast to wear a mask, but not basketball? And then we talk about like wrestling. Okay, I understand why you can't wear a mask in wrestling because it's probably going to come off every 3 seconds. But we're talking about health and safety. Wrestling, they're tying up. They're so close to each other. If anybody's passing COVID, if this is the point of it, wouldn't that be the greatest one? So what I'm saying is I see discrepancies. And I know this is tough for a Virginia High School League and people, governed bodies, because it seems like they're trying to stay normal, but in a situation where there is no normal. As an AD, how did you look at that?
Absolutely. I think that there's definitely some credence for even going, sports specific and saying, wrestling is at the highest level of tier 1 and maybe we have to pause wrestling. Maybe we do some mitigations for basketball to get it in. And then maybe we look at swimming and indoor track and say they're easier to accomplish. Let's don't mess too much with it, but have some strategies in play there. Mm-hmm. I think they want to globally be presented as not trying to exclude anyone.
Yes.
And
yes.
I think we're not normal. So exclusion may have to be the case in some certain circumstances for safety and health reasons. You're telling gymnast, competition cheer, wrestling, and swim and dive that it's okay to not have a mask, but then you're mandating that the rest do. that consistency is just hard to answer for.
And Rich, if I'm going to interrupt you here, cheerleading, no mask. And I know the cheerleading coach is going to kill me on this one. If we have no audiences, no fans, which we're not, what is the role of sideline cheerleading then?
That's a tough call, and that's been a tough call for everybody that has.
And nobody is going to come out and say cheerleaders got to sit because we don't have a crowd. But technically, think about it. We're not in a normal. And what are cheerleaders for? Well, they're for crowd purposes. To be honest, they're not. When I ask players about how much do cheerleaders affect you in the game, most of them say nothing at all. It's mostly for crowd. Right. And again, I don't want to come across where people are going to say, "Oh, he just hates cheerleading." No, I'm just saying, think about the situation.
Yeah, it's tough. Our sideline cheer program is a support program. It comes under the umbrella of the VHSL, but it's a support program. So my staff have even questioned, why are we really doing sideline? Let's wait till we get to competition cheer because that's the sport. So it's an awfully tough call. And, in your county right now, we're going to be allowing some spectators in, just a few. But we've got to allow for the cheerleaders to have a mom or a dad come in to just listen to them because they won't be performing. It's a tough call. It really is. And, as far as the mask thing is concerned, sideline cheer is still going to have to wear a mask, whereas competition cheer does not. So, it's tough. It's a challenge, but if we get a chance to do it and there's still time to all those decisions to be made, we're gonna push forward with the best plan and options available.
And then
that's all we can do.
And then here comes the next issue, which nobody wants to deal with, and pray to God it doesn't happen. What happens when you get a COVID outbreak, a positive test like we're seeing on the college and the pro level? Now programs shut down, other programs can't play. The mess gets bigger.
Right. And I think I don't want to be a naysayer too much, but it's almost inevitable as you start to even if the trickle down from the professional to the college to the high school, and it's that large group atmosphere that's going to create it, and that becomes a problem. We're looking at scheduling models that have been changed 3 times already since November. And that's tough, especially with a district that now has fewer members for the season number 1. It's just been, it's just been tough. But we're rising up,
Well,
we do what we do for the kids.
It is very stressful, and we thank you for your effort here in making this hopefully go off as safely as possible for all of our kids. Don't be a stranger. Thank you for tuning in and calling in. I'm sure we'll get you on again when we have a little more time, all right?
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
you, Ed.
Rich.
Thank you, Richard Onesty, the athletic director there at Bruton High School. We'll take a timeout, come back with buy or sell, and you'll hear some sound from Bronco Mendenhall of UVA right here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk on ESPN Radio 94.1.